exactly 2 years ago, my little sister wanted a kitten for her birthday. That's all she ever wanted, and her reasoning was that she could cuddle with it and that would keep her company 24/7. At the start of the day, she'd beg my mom, please, 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 and at the end, my mom would say, well, we'll see. Amongst the negotiations between my parents, they had hinted that instead, they were expecting a baby. Which is great because who needs a kitten when a baby can keep you company 24/7 and can be cuddled with? And you know what? Having a baby is just so much easier than taking care of a kitten, for example. Right? Right, ladies? The answer is a complete and definite no. Our colic baby would be crying 24/7. My mother would be crying. We would all be cuddling together and crying. Recently, the terrible twos have attacked our household with baby speech and baby tantrums. A recent UCLA study had shown that a baby hears the word no 400 times a day, and in an average person's lifetime, they hear the word no 143,000 times, whereas yes is just heard a couple thousand times. The balance is outrageously tipped. No wonder most 2-year-olds, including our own, fall flat on their face and scream back no. Observing personality and speech development in a baby has given me the opportunity to see how our behavior, psychology, and brain are interconnected and need to be integrated in the way we thought, and the way we're going to be teaching. Now, I want you all not to think of the word fat cat. I want you to take that word, put it in a box, and throw that box away. You can't do that, right? That's exactly what happens when I tell my little brother, please don't bite mommy. Like, seriously, please don't bite mommy. She's gonna be mad, and she's gonna blame me afterwards. He will do the exact opposite, and yes, he will bite mommy. Psychologists have done a lot of research into this, and they have found that by reversing the words you use into a more positive approach, then it can actually be more effective. When we hear no, our body automatically goes into negative mode, and we are ready to get defensive. Whether you are 2 or 52 years old, we all have the same reaction. But my talk here today is not to educate you on why you should use positive terms with your family, friends, colleagues, but it is to show you how such a simple change in words can affect our ability and the way we think. We can essentially manipulate or trick our minds into believing a better reality. I believe that the future of education is going to be divided into 5 levels and simultaneously create the standard of the future. Now, the first key point in our educational future is going to be personalized psychology and personalized learning. Even in the early days of Plato and Aristotle, they believed that knowledge transfer or teaching needed to be through an individual's differences and an individual's problem-solving ability. So essentially, we're going to be learning what we love to do and actually do it. I want to tell you a little story of when I was in the 4th grade. When I was in the 4th grade, I was a complete lost and confused child. And when I mean that wholeheartedly. In classrooms, I would daze off, I wouldn't pay attention to what the teacher was saying, and at the end of class tests, I would flip to the back, do a really creepy drawing that my teacher would get really confused about. And one day, my teacher, Miss Brown, had approached me, and she said, Minaal, I want you to do a UOI in art. And at the time, I was really confused. I was like, what's a UOI? But then I got to know that a UOI is kind of like a mini personal project before a 4th grader, which sounds a bit scary, but I had taken this project upon myself, and I went to different museums to research, I talked to different artists in Singapore, I learned about all the architecture and design in our community, and at the end of this research project, I went back to my classroom, I gave a small little sculpture lesson, and I didn't win the coolest 4th grader award, but I did win a leadership award. And that year was life-changing for me. But it can be for any lost or confused child in a classroom through personalized and custom learning. I believe that the future of education is going to be individualized to the dot. I don't think that in 20 years' time, we're all going to be learning the same subjects at around the same level. We're going to be studying less subjects, ones that are more in-depth, and starting at a younger age group. So at age 6, one could learn how to cook, code, write, paint at the skill level of an 18-year-old. It is a preconceived notion that a student has to be good at every single subject that they are given in the curriculum to be considered smart or academically successful. But as we're moving into this more technological savvy generation, and we're going to be focusing on specialization, we don't have to worry about being good at every single subject, and even especially the ones that we're not passionate about. Now, the second key component in our educational future is going to be a dominance of technology in our education, so no shock there. The education part, or the information part of our education, is going to be completely digitalized, and the real revolution of education is going to take place within 10 to 15 years' time, where information is going to be technically handed across the entire globe, making no distinguish between rich or poor. This will change the playing field completely, where the privileges in education will end. In the 1980s, a computer used to cost $3,000, and now a low-grade, unbranded tablet can cost as much as $25, and that's around 3 meals at McDonald's. With this, I'm talking about a 100% literacy rate in 30 years, in 2 generation gaps. Who knows when the next Bill Gates, Einstein, or Picasso will emerge? Maybe even a Kylie Jenner, because she's a business genius. But the point is, we are a global population of 7.6 billion people and growing. My baby brother is going to grow up in a generation that is more complex and more competitive than the ones my parents grew up in, or the ones that my generation is going to face. Now, the third key component in our educational future is going to be our beloved teachers. Now, at this point in my TED Talk, they're probably thinking, well, she just talked about technology and evolution, so that means our job is completely gone, right? But I can assure you that is not the case, which is great because my teachers definitely would have beaten me up for saying otherwise. But the idea of teachers are going to be put into a different light, where they're going to be seen as personal mentors, ones that have wisdom beyond the information. It's just like in the olden times where students used to have apprentices or gurus. These personal mentors would have specialized in a specific subject area, have the art of problem solving and professional wisdom. It's like having your own Grandmaster or Dumbledore or your own personal Yoda. Now, to understand this concept, I'm sure many of you have heard of the phrase that the brain acts as a sponge because it keeps sucking up information and it grows with knowledge just as a brain sucks in water. However, even if the brain is able to hold large sums of information, if it isn't able to apply it into a real-world context, then the information is useless. Take this for an example. You're in a trigonometry class and you just learned about a bunch of equations and lines and rules and math stuff. And then when you go out into the real world and you look at different architecture and design and medical imaging, and you can't actually put the two together, then the information that you learned is pointless. There's no importance in it. And that's when the Grandmasters and the Dumbledores and the Yodas come in. They will essentially help you connect the dots by understanding your brain and teaching you how to use it to your best ability, making the information more useful because then you can actually learn and create more things. Example, you're writing a novel or you're making an animation or a movie. The Grandmaster would essentially remove bottlenecks and give you wisdom from prior experiences that they had with the subject. I would like to say that I'm a grandmaster because my brother knows that taking a shower and soap is used in the bathroom. And I've taught him how to apply it to the real world, in this case, our household, and that by squirting water on our sleeping sister, she'll always create this angry or confused expression. And so I've definitely set him on the path of discovery there. Now, the fourth point in our educational future is going to be mental and behavioral coaching. It's something that has raised a lot of popularity recently and is usually just used for recreational purposes for the people who like to do yoga and meditate and talk about mindfulness. But mental and behavioral coaching need to be integrated into our daily education system. Just as PE is used for our physical strength, mental and behavioral coaching will be used for our mental strength. In the last 5 years, studies have shown that social media applications such as Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, Facebook, the ones that you're familiar with, not only have detrimental effects on the individual using them, but affects their ability to create relationships, their academic success, and causes a range of mental illnesses such as ADHD, depression, loneliness, anxiety, FOMO, something known as fear of missing out. But in order to achieve specialization, we need to be more focused and have a higher attention span in the future. Currently, there's not a lot of information on the effects of social media on the brain, but there are definite changes. Statistics have shown that over the course of the last 20 years, the attention spans of individuals have decreased, and the current attention span of an average adult is around 14 minutes. This is a growing problem and needs to be fixed through coaching of different skills and strategies. These distractions rob us of years of life within 15-minute intervals. These skills and strategies are crucial for those who excel and hold back many that already have a high potential. Imagine Mark Zuckerberg said, well, today I'm going to code Facebook, and then he just said, I'll just do it tomorrow, and then completely forgot about it. A mom's yelling for you to get off your Facebook and start doing your homework isn't going to do the job. These specific skills and strategies need to be thought. We neglect these issues, but they are large. The future and the future generations cannot have 10-second summary kids. An extraordinary education needs to have real education, not a superficial quick fix. Anyone and everyone can learn a language online, but how many of those people actually have the skills and the dedication and the patience to do so? It is a well-known fact that Bill Gates is a Harvard dropout. But is it as well known as the fact that during his 2 years at Harvard, he had spent nights in the computer lab programming, complete nights learning and creating, not just 14 or 15 minutes of focus. It was the year 1973, which is great because that was just 20-odd years before the world got a little distracted. Now, the fifth component in our future of education is going to be having multi-directional jobs. A book written by Daniel and Richard Susskind had said that different professions such as doctors, lawyers, engineers were going to be completely dominated by technology, and that our future education had to focus on tomorrow's jobs, and that technological fields needed to be introduced as early as play school, just as math and English are mandatory. Universities are already noticing this, and they're creating dual hybrid degrees, with the main discipline usually accompanied by technology. Now, many of you may be saying that, well, Minaal, I'm going to grow up and I'm going to become a lawyer, and after my DP math exam, I'm out. I don't want to solve anything ever again. And I can completely agree with you, but we can no longer check out. Technology is changing how jobs are going to be formed, so the job of a lawyer may completely disappear or completely change. Technological fields are changing how legal services are being delivered through documentation automation, in-discovery, and online court dispute systems. So in 20 or 30 years, the job of a lawyer may require skill sets such as programming or coding, and that means math. Sorry, kids. But in conclusion, this is the best times to live. Times are changing so fast that we are forced to go with the flow. No one has any control or advantage. The 5 cornerstones of education are going to combine to create our educational landscape. And what we know now may change or be completely history in 20 to 30 years. So ladies and gentlemen, I want you all to sit back and brace yourself for the ever-changing world around us. Thank you.